Welcome back to a Fresh Story podcast. This season, we're diving into what makes a family, how did you build your family, how did you create your family, all things family. And today we have a very special guest. I don't know her. I've never met her. She's my sister, Genevieve Dreisen. And I'm going to ask her the questions that we're going to ask a bunch of our guests on some of the episodes, which is, how did you create your family? And so I'm going to pop over here. Okay. So first of all, can you introduce us to the listener audience?
Introduce us to the listener audience?
Can you introduce you? Who are you?
Hi, I'm Genevieve Dreisen. I am the co-founder and COO of Fresh Starts Registry. I am Olivia's sister, younger sister by about 2.5 years. And I'm Colin and Tessa's older sister. And I'm Thomas's wife.
Okay. Thomas's wife is the most important part of this episode.
Let's
get into this. Can you share your family story with us? Who are the members of your family?
So my family, my immediate family, the family that we're talking about, that I got to build, I didn't get to choose the rest of them,
right?
is Thomas and I. And I met Thomas accidentally. My mom and I were in Scotland, and we were going to the National Gallery of Scotland, which is a museum that is located on the Mount on Princess Street in Edinburgh. But what we didn't understand, I'm still a little unclear of the space, to be honest with you, is that if you walk through the front doors of the Mount, which is this beautiful building that looks like the Parthenon, there's actually two sort of entrances that split off. And one, if you walk through the doors, is called the RSA, or the Royal Scottish Academy. And we walked into the RSA instead of the NGS. I walked into the wrong museum. And there were two people behind a table. One was a woman and one was a man. And our mom is an artist, and she loved to talk to everybody. This was 2010. She had just gotten Facebook. She was very excited to be sharing her Facebook information with everyone. And she had just had an art show. So she was carrying around postcards from an art show. And she starts to, and she also is a wonderful flirt, just like I am. And she walked right over to this young man who I always say he was like of questionable age. Like you couldn't tell if he was like a really like a scruffy 25 or like a young looking 40. And he was very handsome. And I think he was wearing like a button down with sleeves rolled up and jeans, and started talking to him. And I started talking to him. I found it really hard to hold conversation with him because I thought he was really cute. And I had a boyfriend, and we had just had a fight the night before, my boyfriend and I, where he had tried to make me jealous. And we talked, and he said that, I said, what are you writing? He was writing something on a legal pad. And he said he was writing poetry, and I write poetry. And I said, I write poetry. And he said, oh, maybe you know some competitions I could get into. And I said, yeah, of course. And we exchanged information, and we were on our way. And then I messaged him on Facebook, and we started emailing. He emailed me his poems, and they were really, really good. And I felt really, really embarrassed because I didn't know anybody. And I didn't answer his email for 11 years. And we had very, very vague touch over Facebook. Maybe every 18 months, we would not even message each other, to be honest with you. We would comment on each other's picture or something like that. At some point, Olivia and I offered Valentine's Day cards through our old blog, Lovely at Your Side. And we did like a call on Facebook if you want a Valentine. And he asked for one, so I sent him one.
Yeah, you didn't respond to his email.
I didn't never respond to his email. And he never said anything about it. And I totally forgot about that email for 11. Like I didn't carry that guilt with me. I think he thinks I carried the guilt with me. And he reached out to me in the spring of 2021. I'd commented on a Facebook post of his, and he reached out to me and messaged me some very nice things. And I messaged him back telling him I was engaged. And then about 3 months later, I wasn't engaged anymore. So I thought, let me get some attention from this handsome Englishman who I didn't know was English at the time. Thought he was Scottish. He was like, how would you think I was Scottish?
Does that change everything for you?
He said to me, like, you know, I'm not Scottish. And I was like, I barely know you, my man. And so I reached out to him, and then it was just kind of like, I mean, I wonder from your perspective, Olivia, like it was kind of a little bit like, wham. Like, I mean, I booked a ticket to go see him 2 days later. I canceled the ticket, but I spent the next 3 months talking to him constantly. I mean, he quickly became a very important person in my life. And I came to Scotland to visit him in October of 2021. And then I came again in January. We went to the islands together in March. And then I came back in May of 2022 to spend 6 months here, which I could do legally. We got engaged, and I moved here in May of 2023. We got married in September. That was how we built our family. What was it like from your perspective to have me like sort of just like?
I honestly was just happy you were happy.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't really. I think it's funny because there's a lot of like and I was just thinking about this today. You and I talk about like everything, but there's some things we don't talk about. Like, and it's interesting. And so I think your relationship with Thomas has been, I think, because it's so positive and natural for you. I've literally never had you've never had an issue with him that I've had to like help you with.
The only thing I think we've talked about was I had a lot of guilt about moving away. Like, that was the only thing that we've talked about, but that had nothing to do with him and had everything to do with everything else. Yeah. I always felt like you were kind of not uninterested, but you were like, if it's going well, like, I don't need to know the details. Like, that was kind of how I felt that you.
No, and I think that there was drama is not the word, but there was a lot of discussion about the other relationship. And it was like constant, like, just like you were not being, being valued in the way that you should have been.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just seemed like very natural for you just to like,
I know. And I think what's crazy about it is like, if you had told me that the person that was most right for me in the whole world was an Englishman who lived in Scotland most of his life, who is almost 10 years older than me, I would have been like, that doesn't sound right. Like, we were raised in such significantly different ways. We were raised with such, socioeconomic differences, like all these things. And yet that is like I would say alongside you. I wouldn't even say like you guys, you two are the people that like understand me most in the world and naturally. And it's so, I just think about what would have happened if I hadn't walked into the wrong museum that day.
What challenges have you faced in creating this family?
I think, not only the long distance of it all wasn't hard, like for us emotionally. I mean, it was not fun. I didn't enjoy it, but it's interesting because I'd been in long distance relationships before that were hard. And I understand now that that's because a person can make it difficult, but there was none of that. There was no like trying to make me jealous or even like thoughtlessly making me jealous, which I think is a thing that happens a lot when you're younger. There was none of that. He is so present and also like, transparent. And, even at the beginning, it was like, I'm going to see you. I'm going to talk to you every night. I want to talk to you every night. I want to look at you every night. And that made it really easy. The hard part was we're in an international relationship, and that's been really scary. Like, that's been really scary because, and it's funny because I would say to Melissa, one of my close friends, like, I'm going to cry. Like, I'm so afraid of the other shoe dropping. Like, when's he going to not be great? And Melissa was like, but you know what the other shoe is. It's being in an international relationship and having to navigate these things. I mean, navigating visas and taxes in a new country and the NHS and how do I don't know
how you do it. I really don't know how you do it.
It's really scary. And because the consequence, whether it is or isn't, is you might not be able to be with the person that you love most in the world.
Right.
That I think is the biggest like hurdle that we've had is just like the bureaucracy of it all. And that's been the hardest, scariest, biggest part of the relationship of like, like we got engaged in December of 2022. I flew home right before Christmas, like December 23rd.
I remember.
And I didn't know when I would see him again. And I didn't know when I would be back in the UK. I mean, we had plans to meet up halfway through, but it's also really expensive. And so you don't really have money to throw around to be like, let's go to this and that. Like, and maybe if you have a lot of money, it's not that big of a deal because I couldn't come to the UK during that time. And Thomas works in the museum still, works at the museum. Like, and so we were restricted by things like finances and time off and stuff like that. And I didn't know. I didn't know if I would get approved for my visa. I mean, I had no reason to not be approved, but it's scary that somebody gets to decide
Right.
if you can be with your person or not.
Right.
And I thought I would be home until June. I thought it would take about 6 months, and then it took 5 months, which was amazing. But that was scary too, because then I was like, we had a trip planned. We were going to go to Amsterdam, and then my visa got approved, and I found out I could leave May 2023, and it was like, oh no. And then I felt like I didn't have enough time with you guys. And then it was like, and I was like, but I told my sister I'd be home. You know, you were doing your anchored certification and stuff like that. And then it was like, and I think that, and then like, of course, like moving across the world, you know, but none of it is about my relationship. It's always about the logistics.
I think like, I truly believe like when you met him, he like knew who you were gonna be, and then like he just had to wait.
I 100% feel like that. Like it very much felt like, oh, there it is.
Right.
That's exactly how it felt, and it felt like we'd done this before in other lifetimes.
I felt that about a jar of peanut butter this morning.
Oh, there it is.
No, I love that. So, what advice would you give to somebody who is navigating this type of relationship?
Communication. And if the person that you're with isn't making it really easy on the emotional side, then the logistical side is going to be that much harder. Like, I think that if you want to be in an international or long distance relationship, you just have to be both of you really have to want to be there in a really loving way and a really excited and like happy way. Like no jealousy, no intentionally or unintentionally making the other person jealous. No, like, I'm going to go out. I don't know if there's going to be girls there. We don't do that. We're adults. No. We can't do that, you know? Or I'm going to go out. Yeah, there are going to be women there, but you know, I adore you more than anything else, right? Like there has to be a lot of love. There has to be a lot of just open communication and, expression of love, because you don't have all the other parts. So if somebody's not making you feel loved, and I think one of the things I came into this relationship not knowing is that, like, if somebody wants you to feel loved, you really will. You don't. You should never have to wonder.
Right.
And if and like that being said, like if you're wondering if you're the problem or they're the problem, like therapy is a great option. Always a great option.
Yeah. What are you most proud of with your family that you've built?
I'm proud that we got to this point. I mean, when I first like flew from the U.S. to Scotland, I was like, I just fell into his arms, and I'd never kissed him. I'd never held him. I'd never hugged him. You know, we'd met once 11 years before. And I just kept saying, like, I can't believe we did it. I can't believe we did it. And I think just like holding out for each other, like, and knowing that we were like, there was that person that was out there. And then, you know, we've created a lovely home. And I find myself the most peaceful that I've ever been in my life. I just want to be like at home and hang out and, you know, keep building this little nook together.
Yeah. No, I love that. So what does family mean to you?
Oh, that's a hard one. I think it's just like the people that you go to and that come to you and that you take care of. You know, I think it's who you face the world with. That's what I would say. Yeah.
You have any other words of wisdom that you'd like to share?
No, I'm going to cry.
Should I make another joke?
Words of wisdom to share. That if you are in a relationship with somebody that is from the UK and you're American, you might think that you're speaking the same language, but you might not be speaking the same language at all. That is my words of wisdom to share. It's usually always funny results, but I think that's been really fascinating, is that we think that we're saying the same words, but they're not the same meanings. And so that's been interesting. And then, you know, don't be afraid to get experts involved when you need to. I got a UK tax guy, and that was really comforting. And that, like, it's all navigatable, and there's always somebody that's done it before you. And my biggest piece of advice would be, don't go on the forums unless you have a very direct question. I couldn't be on any of like the subreddits for like fiance visas for the UK because they really scared me.
We had to stop watching 90 Day Fiance.
I had to stop watching 90 Day Fiance, which I really enjoyed.
I did too. And I think from my perspective, I will say too, as the person that loves you most in the world, that if the person that is your person, right, like my sister, is truly happy in a relationship, I don't miss you ever. Like, I don't have any second guesses or qualms or about, like, you could be in Australia for all I know, or on the moon. Like, as long as you're happy, you're happy.
On the moon.
You're on the moon?
I actually live on the moon, yeah.
Oh my gosh. You and Ernie. And so
that's actually Thomas is Ernie.
Thomas is Ernie. And fun fact, I've never even met Thomas.
No, that's true. It's crazy.
Which is really funny. Yeah.
It's nuts. I think, and for two people that are as close as you and I are, like the fact that you've never, and I think that was really big for me. I think to feel like I fell in love with him all on my own, and I made those decisions on my own, and I wasn't like looking at other people to be like, is this a good choice? Is this a good choice?
Yeah.
That was really big for me.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
you didn't ask. No,
I didn't ask. And I've never asked anybody if they like him because I do. And that's enough for me.
I love that.
Yeah.
Great way to end this episode. So I appreciate you sharing your family creation story. Thank you for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe so we can keep telling Fresh Start family stories this season. And we appreciate you listening. Thanks, everyone.